Year 10s. This just looks at the short answer questions that we set as a revision sheet. So the first one is the 5-sector model. Now, as you go through, if you haven't done the questions, you might want to pause the video. Each question has the question first. You could pause, do the question, and then look at the answer. I'll let you go through this in more depth. But the key points are we want to think about both the real flow of goods here. So real being that real actual things are going as opposed to the flow of money. We want you to be able to recognise the 5 sectors and then the flows that go with them and their abbreviations. And remembering, I guess, I is often the trickiest one because I comes in potentially 3 places. Income I always think of as yincome, it's with the Y, and imports and exports should be used their second letter M and X. Leakages and injections, and then you'll have a great way to practice this is just to write out as much as you can, then think of the next few things you need to go back and practice again. Let's jump on with the questions. Remember, if you haven't done them, stop, answer them yourselves, then have a listen to the answer. So the 4 factors of production, what each factor is, and the returns that are provided. So the factors of production are the resources that go into making a good or service, land, which is the natural resources, not just the pure land, but it also might be the potatoes, for example, in the chips, the French fries at McDonald's, the labour, the workers, capital, the tools and equipment, and entrepreneurship, the business ideas. The return for land is rent, for labour is wages, for capital is interest, and for entrepreneurship, the people who think and run the business, it's profit. Normal goods and inferior goods. What would an example be? So normal goods are the goods that when there's an increase in income, people demand them more. So for example, organic food or cars. Inferior goods, that means that the demand for these decline when people's incomes rise. So as people's incomes rise, they tend to go towards the more luxury items. So the inferior goods are the more simple, the basic items. So things like the brand name groceries, the home brand groceries, the bottom line grocery items. Another example is potatoes. Often people, when incomes fall, people buy more potatoes because they're cheap and they fill you up. They're an inferior good on that definition. Describe the economic problem. Explain how this relates to scarcity. So as we've probably seen many times, economic problem is all around the fact that resources are limited, wants are unlimited. And scarcity is the idea that human wants exceed the available time, goods, services, and resources. So we can't always have the things we can't ever have the things that we always desire. So we have to make choices. Explain the economic opportunity cost. In your example, give some examples of what the opportunity cost of spending $1,000 on Taylor Swift tickets and merchandise might be. Opportunity cost is the value of the next best alternative that's gone. What else could you have done with that money when a choice is made? So an example might be that you're also thinking about buying a new smartphone. So the opportunity cost, what you gave up to buy this Taylor Swift tickets, is the new smartphone. Complementary goods. What might be a complementary good to a bicycle? So complementary goods are products that are consumed jointly with another product. So for example, a bicycle and a bicycle helmet would be complementary goods. Substitute. Now, substitute is the word we tend to use. The word supplementary has slipped in here as well. So explain what a substitute good is. What might be a substitute good to a car? So substitute good are products that satisfy the same basic wants as another product. So they're things that we can put in place of something else. A supplementary or a substitute product for a car could be a motorcycle, as these products fill the want for drive for travel. Identify what a leakage is in the 5-sector model. What are the leakages? There are 3 leakages and 3 injections. What are the leakages? So in relation to the 5-sector circular flow of income, a leakage is any instance where money exits the economy. Or exits that circular flow. The leakages are savings, because when people put savings away, it goes out of that circular flow. Taxes and imports, when we send our money overseas. Ceteris paribus. What does this term mean? An important term in economics. It's a phrase that means all else being equal. So it means that we're examining only one thing at a time. We're assuming that everything else stays the same in the one thing. For example, in a supply and demand situation, maybe we're just changing the price. That's the only thing we change. Everything else stays the same. Okay. Saving, taxes and imports, investment, government spending and exports. So the first three and the last three, what does it mean when they are equal in the 5-sector model? And the first three, savings, taxes and imports, they're leakages. The last three, investment from the banking, financial sector, government spending and exports, the injections. And so when those are equal, the economy is balanced. What factors cause a production possibility frontier move outwards so more is being produced? So moving outward, there's actually more in total being produced. So when some of the resources are better used, the 4 factors of production: land, labour, capital, entrepreneurship. So for example, if there are improvements in productivity and efficiency because of new technology, or we get better at the production. What is meant by the term equilibrium? So that's the point where quantity demanded and quantity supplied are equal. So that the two lines effectively cross. Belinda is a tourist from Britain, spends $500 on a diving trip to the Great Barrier Reef, another $150 on sunscreen. How is the spending classified in the 5-sector model? And it's a bit of a tricky one because she's actually in Australia, but as we see when we look at the answer, this is seen as an export because her money has come from overseas. So as a tourist, Belinda represents an injection into the Australian economy. She's spending $650 on diving and sunscreen, and it's an export from the foreign sector to the production sector who are providing those services. And I think this is the last question, and I haven't got the question here, unfortunately. You can go and have a look at the revision sheet, but it asked us to fill out this table. So when the government increases the goods and services tax, is that a leakage or an injection? A tax is a leakage. It's T, tax, so that's around the government sector, and it flows from households to government. And overseas, a USA company, this Amazon streaming service, so if someone subscribes to that, it's a leakage. It's an import. He's buying something from overseas. His money is going overseas, and it's from households to the foreign overseas sector. And lastly, the government provides a grant to an Australian business to build electric vehicles in Australia. That's going to be an injection. It's a government expenditure, which is G, and it's from the government to the production sector.